This is my 2024 summary. It's just as intense as my 2022 and 2023 experiences, but in a different way. This quote really summarizes what happened in 2024. Man who lacks purpose distracts himself with pleasure. 2024, I think pleasure took over, and you'll see what I mean. So this is a brief summary of 2024. If I don't do this, then I'm just going to ramble on and on. I'm living and traveling in Mexico in the beginning of 2024. I had finally achieved my goal of paying off the 30 grand and doing what I hated for an entire year. And so I just drank excessive alcohol in Mexico to suppress the emotion. There was some cocaine use in Mexico, moderate LSD use. I was vaping daily. In the summer of 2024, microdosing MDMA, which is like ecstasy. I purchased this Tektite called Moldavite. This is my second Moldavite pendant. The first one, I heard that it's a meteorite glass known for transformation. Figured, what the heck? What's it going to do, right? I didn't think nothing of it. Listen to what happened after. In July, I'm working fireworks security, an overnight shift 9 to 9. I'm using modafinil for alertness during shift work, and over that week, I experienced an awakening where I need to forgive Reen and the tech founder that disappeared with that 30 grand. There's a lot of emotion that was behind that. After fireworks, fly back to Calgary, and there's Calgary Stampede there and partying. There's a move there with my friend Chris, who came to Mexico earlier in the year, and we were doing a lot of video work in Mexico. In August, I intend to manifest these 2 free tickets to Gary V's VCon, and I do end up winning the tickets. And then there's these bizarre weather events that I call God's plan. Like, was that God intervention that damaged WestJet's fleet and didn't allow the initial flight I would have been on to leave, so I had to rebook the flight and then get on another flight. That flight rebooking changed everything. So the next day, I take cocaine before my rebooked AM flight to VCon. And 2 hours later, I then also take 150 milligrams of armodafinil, this nootropic stimulant. It's the same modafinil that I was using to stay awake. It's an alertness chemical, but it stays in your system for 15 hours. Armodafinil is the extended version. So that led to me having an overstimulation event in Salt Lake City. When I have that overstimulation event in Salt Lake City, I end up running on a car and I damage it. During all of that, the police are called on me and I'm arrested. Then I'm taken to a hospital for psych evaluation. I'm released overnight. And then the next day, while boarding the flight to LA to get to VCon, I'm arrested for damage of property. I'm taken to jail. And in that first night, I had this experience or vision, an out-of-body experience, an apocalypse vision. Look up the law of one density, something that I've never experienced before or after ever. Then after jail, I'm released after 3 days. I return to Calgary. I'm dog sitting for clients. In September, I start experiencing psychosis symptoms where the TV and radio or social media is all communicating directly to me. I don't end up paying my roommates for rent in September, and I go AWOL or missing. I don't return to the apartment for a few days, and I have mania hit. I experience life as a simulation, and I attempt to follow the signs and escape the matrix. I'm not sleeping for days. I lose my backpack with both of my US and Canadian passports in it, my wallet, my expensive MacBook Pro, all my recording gear for audio. During that mania, I also begin listening to Ariana Grande's music, and I form this delusion that in the spirit or astral realm, her and I were soulmates. And it's as though each time I'm listening to the music, it's not just me listening to music, that is her directly communicating to me. So my parents end up getting called by my roommates. They arrive in Calgary. They take me to Vernon for mental health help. They don't know what to do. My parents didn't know what was going on, but they identified things were bizarre with my behavior, with my conversation, and with my habits. So they had me checked for mental health, and I was placed under the Mental Health Act. I already had a psychiatrist from 2022 who I was dealing with who had a case for me. And so the Mental Health Act ultimately meant I am unable to leave the hospital for 2 months against my will. If I tried to leave, I've got a warrant out for my arrest. I was treated with aripiprazole, which is bizarre because as soon as I saw the name Ari, that was part of the Ariana Grande delusion that was already happening. I had 5, then 10, 15 milligrams to bring me down. I personally chose to discontinue it after 50 days in November. I began jogging, exercising in an attempt to raise my energy, and I was placed on extended leave with that mental health act, which meant for about a year and a half. I'm still under this act, but I can live and do as I please, so as long as I'm not doing anything damaging to myself and damaging to those in the community or around me. So I began jogging and exercising in an attempt to raise my energy. Moved in with my parents and was still vaping every day. Mid-December, my friends, they asked me to come film a music video for them in Edmonton. So I was flown out to Edmonton. We filmed the music videos for Blacklisted, the rock band. Moving towards the end of the year, the end of 2024, I looked at everything that had culminated and I'm like, look, you know what? I got to get my control back. All of these substances, I was drinking excessively, unconsciously. I drank all my roommate's liquor from his liquor cabinet back in September with the same place where I had not paid rent. And so at the end of 2024, I went, nah, something's got to bust. I've got to shift. If anything's going to change, I need to change. For things to get better, I need to get better. And right at the end of 2024, moving into 2025, I committed and was able to find the support that I needed to quit all substances and to begin reversing my life. Man, am I ever thankful to myself that I made that decision. 1 year sobriety goal. Now it's November 13th. That is getting extended now. And I'm only where I am because they really got worse before they got better. All right, let's show you a couple of the photos from this year. End of 2023, beginning of 2024, after quitting landscaping, I get to Mexico. I decide I'm going to make it in crypto trading. That doesn't pan out. I just drink my heart out with alcohol in Mexico. Still experience an awakened state of mind, like these sorts of mindsets. This is February, March 2024. My friend Chris comes to Mexico and we get on a boat with our friend Josh, sail down to Zihuatanejo, Ixtapa. We're doing the overnight watch on the sailboat. We make it to Ixtapa. First day there, I get this tattoo above my right ear over a scar that says angel as a thank you to the angels that saved me from a car accident when I was 15. Chris and I were going to stay in Ziwa for only a few days, but then found out they had these incredible beauty pageants happening and we got involved with the community. We ended up networking a bunch with all of the girls there and the producers of the pageant, all the way to the point where they asked me to be a judge for their 15,000 person carnival float that they had. Really got welcomed by that community. Really put me on this high again. Chris and I met our friend Brenda, who allowed us to stay at her place for a month and a half in Zihuatanejo. This is where a lot of the alcohol and partying began to take over. It just became pleasure-seeking. Chris and I had so much fun going to those pageants, but looking back on it, I was drinking alcohol every day. The regulation was out of control. Every day we'd get one of these bottles. I was still researching and interested in quantum physics or the Kabbalion, laws of the universe, secrets to what this is. My buddy Chris and I fly straight from Mexico into Calgary and we headed straight to Cowboys Casino. I decided to move to Calgary with my buddy Chris, end up selling the Protege 5 for rent. May 27th, 2024, I ended up having this live coaching call with Gary Jones on Instagram, and he said something really significant that was pinnacle to what the attitude of my life has been in 2025. He said, if you got a giant boat in the ocean and it's going one direction, in order to turn that boat around, think of it like a huge freighter. It's going to take a lot of energy, but it is possible to be able to turn the boat around. You just need to be realistic with it. I'll show the rest of the photos of 2024 in part 2.